Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So today we're really diving into some fascinating stuff.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Ruthless rulers.
Yeah,
It's always kind of a topic that intrigues people, right? It
it
does.
is.
Like what makes somebody tick like that?
Right.
And the source material we're looking at is Ruthless Rulers, Power, Belief, and the Path to Tyranny.
Yeah.
But here's a really interesting twist.
Okay.
This book actually explores how studying these figures throughout history, who weren't exactly known for their, kindness and gentle leadership,
Right.
could actually help us like save humanity.
Hmm. That's an interesting proposition, isn't it?
Yeah, especially like after a major crisis, like after things have gone really, really wrong.
Right.
So it's almost like looking to history to prevent the really bad stuff from happening again.
Exactly. And the book follows a character who's dealing with the aftermath of a climate change apocalypse.
Oh, wow.
And he's really trying to understand how to prevent that from ever happening again.
So he thinks that by studying these ruthless rulers,
Hmm.
he can figure out how to transform like human consciousness.
Yeah, he believes that there are fundamental patterns in human behavior that lead to these cycles of destruction.
Okay, so we're not just talking about like, good guys versus bad guys here.
No, not at all.
We're talking about using history to maybe understand ourselves better,
Right.
even the not so great parts of ourselves.
Precisely.
And the book starts out by explaining how ancient civilizations viewed their ideal rulers.
Okay.
So strength, fearlessness, and righteousness were like super important.
Those were considered the essential traits of a leader.
The things you needed to protect people from both human and divine threats, right?
Yeah, it was a very different world back then.
But that's where it gets kind of tricky, right?
Yeah.
Like that line between being righteous and being ruthless.
It to be so blurry, can it?
It really is. And the book actually points out that even the most tyrannical rulers often have like tons of devoted followers
Right.
who see them as like divinely appointed or chosen.
It's this paradox of leadership where one person's savior is another person's tyrant.
Yeah. Like, can you think of any leaders throughout history?
Oh, tons.
Yeah. Who were seen as saviors by some, but total tyrants by others?
I mean, it's a recurring theme throughout history, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Well, the source digs into this by talking about numinosity.
Numinosity.
Yeah, it's like this aura of awe or mystery or even religious fervor that surrounds a person or an idea.
Okay.
It's that kind of feeling you get when you're just completely drawn to something or someone, like you
Right.
feel a deep connection to them.
Okay. So it can be a really powerful force.
Oh, absolutely. It can unite people under a common cause,
Like
but it
that.
can also be incredibly polarizing.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, that intensity, that passionate belief can make it really hard to see things objectively,
So it's like this potent force that can either unite or divide people.
depending on how it's used exactly.
Okay, so let's get specific here.
Let's do it.
We're going way back to ancient Egypt to look at Akhenaten, a pharaoh who really embodies this whole righteous ruler turned ruthless thing.
Akhenaten, a fascinating and controversial figure.
Totally.
To understand his story, we need to understand a little bit about ancient Egyptian religion.
Okay.
So, over time, Egyptian rulers, they gradually came to be seen as divine.
Okay.
Like, by the 18th dynasty, pharaohs were considered to be living embodiments of the god Horus.
Wow, that's some serious power.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal.
Do you imagine having that kind of authority?
It's hard to even fathom.
Right.
And then comes Akhenaten, who starts out seeming like any other pharaoh.
What about a typical ruler?
Yeah, but then something changes. He develops this intense focus on the sun god, Arten. Yeah, and it's not just a personal belief. He wants the whole civilization to follow him.
Wow, so he's not messing around.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He orders the destruction of temples and even hieroglyphs dedicated to other gods.
Talk about a power move.
It was a complete religious upheaval.
So he abandons the traditional capital Thebes.
He does and builds a whole new city dedicated to Akhna.
This is Amarna, right?
That's right, Amarna. This brand new city designed to be a utopia, a paradise on Earth.
Filled with palaces and gardens and temples to Akhton, of course.
It was meant to be the shining example of Akhenaten's vision for a new kind of society.
But there's a dark side to this utopia, isn't there?
There is. Archaeologists have found evidence that Amarna was built using forced labor,
Oh, no.
including children.
Oh, wow.
Mass graves of children who died from injuries and overwork have been discovered.
So the reality of Amarna was very different from the idyllic vision Akhenaten was trying to create.
It was a stark contrast,
It's a reminder that even the best intentions can have horrific consequences.
especially when combined with unchecked power.
Akhenaten's story really forces us to think critically about our own beliefs, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like, how can we be sure that what we believe is right and just isn't blinding us to the harm we might be causing?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. And what happened to Akhenaten in the end?
Well, his reign ended in turmoil, his city ravaged by a plague.
Oh, wow. It's like almost it makes you wonder if those other gods were trying to send him a message.
It's a thought, isn't it?
But let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
We're going from a historical figure to one shrouded in a bit more mystery and debate. Nimrod?
Nimrod, a figure who pops up in various religious and historical texts.
Right, but who he actually was is still up for debate.
There's a lot of speculation, but not a lot of concrete evidence.
So some scholars think he might have been like the first Sumerian king.
Right, while others connect him to figures like Sargon of Akkad or even Gilgamesh.
So we're wading into the realm of myth and legend here.
We are?
But what's interesting is that regardless of his actual identity,
Yes.
the way he's portrayed is pretty consistent.
Yeah, as this mighty hunter and ruler who challenged the divine.
You talking about the Tower of Babel story?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the one where Nimrod tries to build this massive tower to reach the heavens.
What a powerful image of defiance and ambition.
It really is.
But is it a cautionary tale about like overreaching, or is there something more to it?
It could be both, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the story of Nimrod resonates even today, doesn't it?
It does think about how often we see leaders in all areas of life.
Right, not just politics.
Exactly. Leaders who are driven by this belief that they know what's best for everyone.
Even if it means like bending the rules or ignoring people who disagree with them.
Right. It's that kind of ambition that can be both inspiring and terrifying.
So is this archetype of the ruthless ruler, is it like ingrained in human nature, or is it something we create?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is.
But before we go any further,
Yeah.
let's take a moment to reflect.
Okay.
We've talked about Akhenaten, this pharaoh who reshaped a civilization's beliefs,
Right.
and Nimrod, this legendary figure who challenged the heavens themselves.
Their stories, while very different, they both highlight the dangers of power and the blurred lines between righteousness and ruthlessness.
What are your thoughts so far?
It's a lot to process, to be honest.
It is.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet.
No, we're just getting started.
We'll be back after a quick break to dive even deeper into this fascinating topic.
Yeah, it really is amazing how these stories from so long ago can still speak to us today.
It's like we're still wrestling with these same big questions about power and belief and what it means to be righteous.
Exactly. And the book really digs into this idea that studying these ruthless rulers isn't just about the past, It's
Right.
about understanding how those same patterns of behavior, those justifications for using power, might still be happening right now.
So it's like a warning sign almost.
In a way, yeah, it's like holding up a mirror to ourselves.
And the book takes us to this future world, right?
It does.
Where climate change has wrecked the planet.
Yeah, a real post-apocalyptic scenario.
And governments have collapsed.
No more traditional power structures.
And in their place, corporations have taken over.
They become the dominant force shaping society.
And of course, resources are scarce.
Super scarce.
And those lines between right and wrong, they've gotten really blurry.
Morality becomes a luxury.
That's kind of a scary thought, isn't it?
It is. It's a cautionary tale.
Like in that kind of crisis situation, the desire for order and security, even if it means doing some pretty questionable things,
Right. The ends justify the means.
could be really, really tempting.
Absolutely. Power becomes the ultimate solution.
And that's what the book is getting at, isn't it?
I think so. It's warning us about how seductive power can be.
Especially when it's in the hands of people who genuinely believe they're doing good.
Right. They think they have the answers.
The source actually calls this the beast of corruption.
The beast of corruption.
Yeah, it preys on those who see themselves as righteous.
It feeds on their certainty, their unwavering belief in their own righteousness.
And once it takes hold, it can really blind them to the suffering they're causing.
Even though they think they're doing good.
It's a crazy cycle, right?
It is a vicious cycle where good intentions can lead to truly monstrous outcomes.
So how do we guard against that?
I think critical thinking is key.
Okay.
We have to be constantly questioning our own assumptions, our biases, especially when it comes to people in positions of authority.
Because it's so easy to get swept up in someone's rhetoric.
It is, especially when they sound confident and charismatic.
Right. They seem like they know what they're talking about.
But that's when we need to be extra vigilant.
So it's about looking beyond the surface, right?
Exactly.
Recognizing that there might be manipulation going on.
And being wary of those who promise simple solutions.
Those who say they have all the answers.
Because there are rarely easy answers.
Especially when it comes to power.
Power always needs to be scrutinized, held accountable.
And remembering that there's not always just one right way of doing things.
There are multiple perspectives, multiple solutions.
And that's where diversity of thought comes in.
Absolutely. Being open to different viewpoints, listening to those who disagree with us.
Because the world is messy and complicated.
It is. There's no escaping that.
And those simple solutions, they can be really dangerous.
They often lead down a very dark path.
So it's like we have to be actively involved in shaping the world we want to live in.
Right. Not just passively accepting what's given to us.
We have to be aware, informed, engaged.
Active participants in our own destinies.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Ruthless Rulers,
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway is that we all have this responsibility.
To be aware, to be informed, to be engaged.
And the lessons from history, they can help us understand those patterns of power.
The dangers of unchecked authority.
But it's up to each of us to actually apply those lessons to the world today.
To see those same patterns playing out in our own time.
And to recognize that this struggle between righteousness and ruthlessness,
It's not just something from the past.
it's happening right now.
It's a battle that's being fought within ourselves and within society as a whole.
And the choices we make,
They determine which side wins.
that's a pretty powerful thought.
It is. It's a call to action.
So what are your final thoughts?
What do you hope people will take away from this exploration of ruthless rulers and the complexities of power? For me, it's a reminder that we all have the capacity for both great good and great evil.
We all have that potential within us.
The potential for tyranny and the potential for heroism,
And we need to be mindful of that.
both within ourselves and within the systems we create.
It's about understanding that the path to a just and compassionate world,
It takes constant vigilance
critical thinking,
and a willingness to challenge those in power,
even when it's hard.
even when it's uncomfortable.
And on that note,
Yeah.
we want to hear from you, our listeners.
What's resonated with you during this deep dive?
What insights are you taking away?
How do the stories of Akhenaten and Nimrod
And these cautionary tales of unchecked power.
inform the way you see the world around you?
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, isn't it, Akhenaten and Nimrod? These aren't just stories from the past, you know?
Right, they feel so relevant even today.
It's like those echoes through time reminding us that the desire for power, that pull towards certainty, the belief that you're right no matter what,
It's all still happening.
it's still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the book doesn't really give us a simple answer, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't tell us how to avoid making the same mistakes.
Right, it leaves us with this big open question.
Like, why do we keep falling for those ruthless rulers?
Why are we so drawn to them?
It's a tough one.
It really is.
So maybe instead of giving us all the answers, it's more about making us ask the right questions.
I think so.
Like really examining what we believe and how we act.
And recognizing that we might be part of the problem even if we don't realize it.
Yeah, even if we have good intentions.
Intentions aren't always enough.
So that's where the real work starts, right?
It does.
It's about looking at ourselves, challenging our own assumptions.
And being honest about our own weaknesses.
Because we're all susceptible to that temptation of power, aren't we?
We are, whether it's on a big scale or just in our daily lives.
It's about being willing to be uncomfortable, to question everything, even the things we think we know.
And to accept that the world is complicated and messy.
Yeah, there are rarely easy solutions.
Rarely.
So it's like we have to be constantly aware, not just of threats from the outside.
But also the potential for tyranny within ourselves.
Which is kind of a scary thought.
It is, but it's also empowering.
How so?
Because it means we have the power to change things,
To choose a different path.
to resist those temptations.
So it's not about blaming others.
No.
It's about taking responsibility for our own actions.
And recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a better world.
A more just and compassionate world.
That's the goal.
And maybe that's the most important thing we can take away from this whole conversation about ruthless rulers.
It's not about dwelling on the darkness of the past.
But about using those lessons to guide us towards a brighter future.
It's about understanding the patterns
Recognizing the complexities.
and ultimately choosing to be a force for good.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah,
We want to leave you with a challenge.
a challenge.
Take what you've learned and apply it to your own life.
Look for those echoes of Akhenaten and Nimrod.
In the leaders you encounter, the systems you're a part of.
Ask yourself those tough questions.
Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Be an active participant in shaping the world you want to live in,
A world where power is used responsibly
where empathy and compassion guide our choices.
and where the pursuit of what's right never leads us down a dark path.
Remember, the story isn't over yet,
We're all still writing it together.
with every choice we make.
So until next time, keep diving deep.